ni inama mpuzamahanga, ikaba ari inama nyafurika y'itangazamakuru ry'amajwi n'amashusho. Ni inama imaze iminsi 3 itangiye, ikaba igikomeje, ariko ni inama yagiye iganirwaho ibintu byinshi mu bijyanye n'itangazamakuru nyafurika. Isi itangazamakuru ryo muri Afurika rifite ibihe bibazo, ni ibihe byihutirwa mu kuba abayobora itangazamakuru bakemura kugira ngo wa muturage wa Afurika ahore abona inyungu ikomeye cyane mu byo abona kuri televiziyo, ibyo yumva kuri radio. Ariko none hakibandwa ku ikoranabuhanga isi igezemo, ese rigendana rite n'ibi bitangazamakuru dufite. Ni inama yaganiriye ibintu byinshi cyane, nkaba mboneyeho umwanya wenda wo kutabibabwira ari jyenyine, nkaba mpaye ikaze uwanyirigira Claudine Doruko, akaba ari umuyobozi wungirije w'ikigo y'urwego rw'igihugu rw'itangazamakuru RBA. Tubahe ikaze.
Murakoze cyane Basile.
Mwabaye muri iyi nama iracyanakomeje, ariko se murebye bimwe mu byibanze iyi nama yari yibanzeho ariko mukabihuza n'ibibazo ubundi byari bisanzwe biri mu itangazamakuru rya Afurika, ni nk'ibihe?
Ni ibibazo ni bitatu. Hari ikoranabuhanga rigezweho kugira ngo ibyo dukora bibe bifite isuku, bikoze neza kandi bigera kure. Hakaba noneho n'ibyo dushyiramo, ese ibyo tuvuga ni ibiki bijyanye n'uburyo itangazamakuru rigomba kureba ibibazo by'abaturage. So noneho ariko nanone twabikora dute hamwe. So ikindi ni ukuvuga ngo ese kuba ibintu bihenda tuzashobora dute kubibonera ubushobozi. Ibyo ni ibintu bitatu bikomeye turimo kuganira hano. Akaba icyo nishimiye cyane cyane nk'umuntu ukorera muri RBA nuko twishimiye kwakira abagenzi bacu bo muri Afurika benshi. Tukaba dutekereza yuko iyo abantu bahuye bashoboye guhura bakaganira nta kibazo gishobora kuba kitakemuka. So ubwo rero icyo turimo kureba cyane cyane ni ukureba uburyo twakora ibintu biganiro tukabikorera hamwe, noneho bigatuma n'abandi bashaka kugira ngo babe baduha nk'amafaranga bavuge bati ba bantu hari icyo barimo gukora. So iyo mushyize imbaraga hamwe, hari igihe mushobora gukora ibintu bishobora gutuma wa wundi wavugaga ati ba bantu ntacyo bakoraga hari icyo bashobora kugeraho, noneho akaba yavuga ati reka shyiramo amafaranga ba bantu batera imbere kurenzaho. Cyane cyane yuko icyo twifuza cyane nk'itangazamakuru rya Afurika ni ukugira ngo duherekeze amavugururwa arimo kuba ku rwego rwa Afurika. Ariko twabaherekeza dute tudafite ibintu bikoze neza, ibintu bireba abaturage bacu.
Hari ikintu cyo gufatanya, wahuriye hano ibihugu bitandukanye, se ibibazo mwasanze bigiye bifitwe n'ibihugu bitandukanye, mwasanze ari ibibazo bihuye?
You may be seated. Your Excellency, it's an honor to welcome you to this 11th General Assembly Ordinary Session of the African Union of Broadcasting. We thank you particularly for agreeing to exchange with the representatives of African public broadcasters and other participants that gathered here for the past 4 days to discuss on how to strengthen the media and the broadcast media on the continent and make it the voice and image of the citizens as we move towards the Africa we want. Your Excellency, in attendance during this week-long gathering were the CEOs and Director Generals of public broadcasters in Africa. 6 ministers and their representative also joined us. I would like to ask the Minister of Togo to please stand for recognition. We also had the Assistant Minister of Botswana, as well as the representatives of the Minister of Mali, and the representatives of the representative of the minister from Senegal. We also had Minister of Communication from Ghana, as well as Algeria, who already departed. I would like also to acknowledge Rwanda government officials here present. During these days, the audience was also addressed by the representatives from the Confédération Africaine de Football, CAF, as well as the Organisation Internationale de la Francophonie, OIF. And we also had the members and affiliated members of the African Union of Broadcasting, AUB, from Africa, but also affiliated members from Europe and South America. Your Excellency, without further ado, allow me to welcome the Chair of the African Union of Broadcasting to officially welcome you to this gathering. Thank you.
His Excellency Paul Kagame, President of the Republic of Rwanda and the African Union, Ministers of State, colleague Director Generals, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. Let me, on behalf of the Executive Council and the entire membership of the African Union of Broadcasting, extend a warm and special welcome to His Excellency President Paul Kagame, for graciously accepting not simply to host us, but making it a point to share some of his valuable time with us. At the risk of sounding ironical, let me say welcome to you, our host, Mr. President, to this African Union of Broadcasting General Assembly. I also extend warm welcome to all here for your presence and willingness to be part of this General Assembly. For the past couple of days, as is the annual custom of the African Union of Broadcasting, we have gathered together to take stock of our activities. We have had the opportunity to reflect over some of the issues that confront our profession, as well as those that threaten public service broadcasting in Africa. We have had the opportunity to focus on the vexed question of the digital terrestrial television migration. We have identified opportunities the new technology offers to us, and we have also debated and taken note of the challenges it presents. In the process, we have had heated debates around the discussion table as to why most African countries continue to struggle to meet the switch-over timeline. While admitting that economic resources play a crucial role in this endeavor, we also acknowledge the snares ahead of us if you continue to be technologically determinist. Accordingly, although we take note of the enormous opportunities a digital regime offers, we also identify the potentially disruptive nature of such technology on our pre-existing protocols. The call on us to do things differently is clear and imminent. As public service broadcasters, we've taken note of the need to establish our continuous relevance within a new multi-channel media ecology and asked ourselves how to generate and mount socially relevant program formats that are attractive and engaging to our audiences. We have particularly focused our conversations around the role and place of public service broadcasting in our emerging democracies and asked ourselves whether or not we are performing our duties appreciably. For instance, it has been pointed out that unlike our commercial or private counterparts, public service broadcasters should continue to view ourselves as collaborators of both government and the people through constructive engagement. It has been noted that unlike our counterparts in the West, African public service broadcasters should be editorially critical of governments without being needlessly adversarial. This vision imposes on us a mandate to serve our local audiences with well-researched and thought-out program content that is informative, instructive, and entertaining. It is within this context, Mr. President, that we focused on good governance as one of the themes to explore. The distressing television images of African youth dashing across the Sahara into Europe for phantom green pastures continues to confront and offend African sensibilities. While such unusual happenings continue to constitute the main staple of Western news bulletins, African public service broadcasters have so far done very little to confront the subject, either by presenting an alternative discourse or deconstructing the frame of such Western narratives. Like the canary bird that serves as an early warning signal to the underground miner, we have identified the subject of immigration, especially of our youth, as an issue that deserves the utmost attention in our programs. It is the expectation of the AUB and its members that we will engage constructively with our various governments to focus attention on this menace. As for the issue of access to football rights when our national teams are involved in international tournaments, Mr. President, we continue to battle with it and continue to suffer the indignity of explaining ourselves to our audiences as to why we cannot show them their local football heroes because we are simply outbid by others with more economic might. Mr. President, as an Arsenal fan and someone who loves football, we shall follow this concern in the near future with an appeal for a formidable AU continental response to this perennial problem of the acquisition of football rights. The unavoidable puzzle of the best way to fund our public service broadcasters engaged our attention. Notwithstanding the fact that the editorial and operational independence of the PSB is crucial to its effective delivery, African public service broadcasters continue to rely heavily, sometimes exclusively, on advertising revenue to mount programs. Although we recognize the negative impact this has on our schedules, including the narrow scope of programs such advertising attracts, the alternative of public funding has proven very elusive. Even where such public funds or television license regime is backed by law, its collection has been fraught with unsurmountable problems. Problems such as inefficient collection, potential bad publicity for governments, and outright refusal by the citizenry to pay without consequences continue to hamstring African public service broadcasters in their bid to access critical funds for their programs. Towards this end, the AUB is looking forward to engaging the African Union with some proposals that will lead to finding a more enduring model of funding the African public service broadcaster to make it a truly public service media and more efficient. We are certain that as the communicative space expands with its attendant ills, including the propagation of fake news, an adequately resourced public service broadcaster will be far better positioned to play its role of providing useful information to its viewers to enable them to take critical social, cultural, and economic decisions. Finally, let me say that African service broadcasters are the first to acknowledge that the media landscape has changed enormously. Whilst we continue to speak about programs, our competitors speak about products. While we speak about viewers, they speak about markets. We acknowledge that with all the advantages new technology offers us as media managers and content creators, our primary task of engaging our viewers as citizens in the project of nation building will come to nothing if we fail to demonstrate our social relevance through culturally engaging and useful local programs. As we strive to deepen our conversation with governments and other critical stakeholders, we are optimistic that African governments will continue to see public service broadcasters as reliable critical partners in nation building and continue to provide us with the requisite support to make us more effective. It is in this view, Mr. President, that we wish to express our deepest appreciation for your presence and look forward to your able and strong leadership as the President of the Republic of Rwanda and the Chairman of the African Union. We thank you for your attention and welcome.
Thank you very much, Dr. Toh, for your introductory remarks. Now, if you allow me, I would like to welcome the next session, the session that you have been waiting for, with Mr. Emmanuel Wongibe, who is the Deputy Director General of the Cameroon Regional Television, CRTV, as he leads us through the question and answer session with His Excellency Paul Kagame. Thank you.
And on behalf of all the members of the Union, I want to thank you for accepting to give us time for this conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, that said, we begin our conversation with the President of Rwanda and Chairman of the African Union of Broadcasting. Mr. President, under your leadership, there are many changes, many reforms that are being taken within the African Union. One of them that seems to catch a lot of attention is the introduction of a levy to be able to finance the activities of this union, which has been hampered for many decades because of lack of adequate funding. Can you give us an idea of your assessment of the commitment that African leaders have brought to this particular reform? And can you tell us whether you're confident this will go through?
Well, thank you. First, I'm happy to be here with you, and thanks for the invitation to come and have this conversation. The African Union has been there for quite some time now, as you are aware, and before that, you are aware of the fact that there was another organization. It's about how Africa can come together and do what it ought to do. Now, some of the things you've mentioned, for example, the desire by the African Union, therefore, by extension, we mean the African countries and the people of Africa, coming together and working together and being able to do many things for themselves. The desire has been going on for quite some time. This time around, we need to pay for our bills ourselves. If you want somebody to pay for your bills, then you'll actually end up paying even more than you actually would have paid directly through the bills you had to pay. Because the one who pays for you in the end owns you or makes you do what they want you to do, not what you want to do. So some of these initiatives that are underway are not new. That's also another fact. You remember the recent one where we have the levy of 0.2% on eligible imports that came up, that has been argued, that has been defended, that is very clear as one of the best ways to go forward to achieve being able to pay for our activities of the African Union, came at a time when there had been another suggestion. Different efforts had been underway. Former President of Nigeria, Obasanjo, had brought up another suggestion. Even before that, there had been another one. But it all came to nothing. Suggestions would come, and then they would just, ourselves, that is ourselves, you can't blame anybody else, really. We are the African leaders. We would shelve those, and we never moved forward. So this time around, there is this one. Maybe with the time, we realize that we are wasting our own opportunities. We've got to get going to do something for ourselves. So the Africans, the African countries, leaders, now think it's the time. We should be able to do that. We should be able to do what has been waiting for us.
Mr. President, you've taken us through the many attempts at resolving this problem.
Right.
And you've come to the conclusion many of them did not bear fruit.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any reason to think this will be any different?
Well, I think every time has its own circumstances to consider. And you assume that maybe once you have failed in the past, maybe you learn from the failure as well. But there is also the current problems we have to deal with. So we have the past failures we should learn from, but we have the present pressures of the day that we have to deal with, and as we deal with those problems we currently face, we have to think of how to deal with them, and maybe we go back to these failures we learned from and apply the lessons we learned from that. But also, there are also new people maybe, new people that come on the stage, new actors that will always want to do something. So we have different faces coming up maybe every 5 years or every 10 years. People who come with some freshness of mind and energy, and maybe we may end up doing something. So I am hopeful that we can do something, because the need is clear, it's there before us. The time wasted has been too long. Maybe that in itself will force us to do something.
If you permit, Mr. President, let's bring that discussion back home, here in Rwanda, in your own country. One of the challenges, as you've indicated, is not just one of financing our operations, is how we manage our activities. How do we manage our political life, democracy? From a distance, and I must apologize, I don't have the mastery of the details of the model, but we see in your country a power-sharing model where a ruling party emerges out of an election, a highly contested but fairly contested election, wins, but brings members of the opposition into government. It's unusual, it's different. You may know that many people find this and criticize it as being a tool for literally stifling the opposition. But others hail it as being a mechanism for stability. Can you lead us through an understanding of this concept and maybe tell us how you think African countries, particularly with the prevalence of confrontation and violence after elections, can learn from this model?
That's a very good question. But to answer it, let me simply say that, and for everybody around, but if I look back and try to study and look at places across the world, beyond Africa, I wonder whether anybody has found one single model that is perfect, that would work for all of us. I have never heard of that. I've never seen of that. Even those who really pretend to be there to give us lessons about what we should do, you know very well currently they are struggling. I think you've seen how the whole world is trying to figure out what should be working for them, or what had been working for them has turned out to be a problem for them. So for us in Rwanda, having learned a lot of lessons, many of them the hard way, we have emerged as realistic. We are very realistic. We are about our situation, about ourselves, about even global issues that in many ways affect us. But the most important lesson that came out of that is to be able to understand that we need to think for ourselves and act based on what is good for us or what is possible for us and what works. So the model we have is simple. Well, if you look at what do we really want as Rwandans, we want peace and security. And I mean for everybody. Every Rwandan needs to feel secure in all aspects of security, if you will. We need prosperity. We need to live with each other in harmony. And again, lack of that in the past, having taught us lessons. So if we have that understanding, then the other understanding is everybody needs to participate, everybody needs to benefit. So they must get involved. That's how we managed to deal with, to do away with the winner takes all situation. We said if you are a winner and the others, if you make them feel they are losers, then even when you have won, you will spend most of your time fighting the person who feels they are losers. And that's all you will do. You will never come to address the problems of your country. But is that the objective? Does that provide security? Does that provide prosperity, which everyone wants? So we find no contradiction in exercising democratic rights, whereby we do it, and at the end of that process, we want to feel that nobody has really lost, or that after all there will be another time to try whatever you want to try. But during that course of time, we need to be doing it together, those who literally won and the others who should not be made to feel they have lost. Working together is what gives a chance for every Rwandan to connect with this opportunity that is there for the people of this country. So that's what we have tried to do. And that's how we came up with an idea of consensus. We actually try to build a consensus. We even go to the one who, in fact, we prefer to look at the so-called opposition as somebody or a group of people having a different way of thinking. So the opposition, what does it mean? Does it mean destroying what you don't like? Does it mean a fight with those you don't like? I think the opposition means, in our view, and the way we have tried to exercise our responsibilities as people with different views. Views in terms of delivering what the country and the people want. If, for example, I talked about security, I talked about prosperity, I talked about the democratic rights, opportunities that are there. People in the opposition, in my view, have a different way of thinking as to how they can deliver them. So it's a different view. It's not that there is an opposition that actually wants to stop people achieving prosperity or achieving security. When it comes to that, then it is a different opposition and it is confronted differently.
Mr. President, as I admitted when we started, I must say that I've been educated about the model, but let me just revisit a key concept that you've developed, which is that of the winner takes all, but your model says we've lost in elections, but at the end of the day, we are all winners. Mm-hmm. What do you say to people who would tell you a situation where we all feel winners can lead us to a comfort that is complicit, a comfort that is stifling of new ideas?
No, first of all, take the comfort. We want to be comfortable after all of us. There's no problem. And then once you have achieved being comfortable, confront what might take it away from you. So, and that means you start thinking exactly about complacence. Now that we are there together, we are doing things that our people want, we are moving forward, what is it that would worry me going down the road that something might come and take it away? And I discover that one of the things might be feeling too comfortable or complacent, if you will, what you have said. Then you have to start doing things about that so that the complacence doesn't step in. Or being too comfortable doesn't come in. Or that going to a point where you may start stifling different ideas. Then you still have to confront that. There is no way you are going to escape that responsibility. Yes, because in the end, if that develops, then it undermines what you say you are trying to achieve. So, but as we said, there is no perfect model, there is no perfect singular process you can apply to these things, as we see everywhere in this world. Even if, therefore, you applied these other models that people talk about, and wanting for us. Maybe they work for them, I don't know. But if you tried it, wouldn't you also be too comfortable that you have maybe allowed opposition, but maybe too much opposition may also start destroying what you are trying to build? Or you are not even delivering on some of the promises you have already made. So again, that's why I'm saying there is not a single particular model that people will put out there and say this is the best which everybody must apply. It depends on context, circumstances, and then once you have applied it, what has it given you? Here in Rwanda, we can say for the last 24 years, after the tragic situation we had to deal with, these things have been working year in, year out for us. So can we, therefore, start worrying that this thing is working too much for us? We need to switch to something else that works less or doesn't work for us. I mean, if that is coming ahead, maybe when I get there, then I will have to deal with it. But for now, I'm happy. When I'm saying I'm happy, it's not just me. I'm saying the country is happy for what we are having, what we are doing, what we see happening, and we are seeing ahead that there are many opportunities to go places.
Mr. President, thanks for those very thought-provoking ideas. As we were having this conversation, a glance on the floor indicated clearly that many more people are interested in the discussion, and with your permission,
sure,
can we bring in the audience?
Absolutely.
And maybe to precise, Mr. President, the African Union of Broadcasting is a family which brings in representatives from 4 linguistic groups: Arabic, English, French, and Portuguese. Mm-hmm. But for the purpose of this conversation, we're going to use 2 languages, English and French. And with the able assistance of our translation service, we hope we're going to have an enjoyable conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for you to ask your questions to the President. Remember, your questions are not only addressed to the President of Rwanda, you also have an opportunity to address your questions to the Chairman of the African Union. Just a few housekeeping principles so that we can work easily. Each one will have the floor by show of hand. Make that request. And please, when you have the floor, introduce yourself, beginning with your name, the organization you represent, and your country. And for the interest of greater participation of everyone else, please keep it short. The floor is open, gentlemen. Yes, the delegate from Botswana.
Thank you very much. My name is Kitirele Matape, Director General, Department of Broadcasting Services, Botswana in Southern Africa. Mr. President, the shocking pictures of young Africans dying in hundreds as they struggle to cross the Mediterranean Sea into Europe have brought shame to the entire continent and indignation from the rest of the world. What do you, as Chairman of the African Union, think can be done to tackle this issue? Thank you very much.
We have to do two things. One is to deal with it as it is happening. We have to figure out how do we confront this situation that is occurring by saying how do we get these people, where do we take them, how do we manage that, how do we either return them to where they came from, or find some other way of managing it that may be appropriate. That is dealing with the problem as it has occurred. The second is for African countries individually and better collectively together to find and understand the root causes of this. Why are these young people in the first place leaving our countries and going wherever to die? In the process, they face this bad situation. So we have to deal with the root causes. The countries have got to say, why are our people, young people, running away from us? Why, to the point they have to take risks to die or to be sold on the market as slaves, or or drown in the seas and so on and so forth. We really have to get to the bottom of this, and it has to do with our own governance, our own socio-economic development processes that should be giving opportunity to these people and giving them employment and, retaining them and making these young people feel that they have a home they can be proud of and stay and live there and work there and only go outside when it is their choice to do so. Yeah, this is what we have to do. There is no other, there is no magic bullet to deal with that. Deal with it as it is now. We have to think about it as African leaders through the different structures and organs that exist, and deal with it as it is. As I'm told, it has started happening. Some countries have already been to Libya, for example, and they sent in planes, and some countries helped with that. And countries went in and picked some of their people and returned them home. They are trying to resettle them. There are, of course, many still there. They haven't been able to know what to do about it. But again, it's not just picking them and returning them to their countries. It's about addressing those things that, what are they? We need to understand them. We need to find something to do and be able to prevent that.
Yes, Honorable Delegate of Senegal.
Merci, Excellence. Dans le prolongement donc de la question de...
Can you hold on for a minute? Yes. Just 1 minute.
Sure, go ahead.
Yes.
Abdou Ndaw de la radio-télévision sénégalaise. Merci, Excellence. Dans le prolongement de la question de ma consoeur, nous savons aujourd'hui que l'Afrique compte, la population de l'Afrique est donc estimée à plus d'1,250 milliard, dont 60% de jeunes qui ont moins de 25 ans. Comment appréciez-vous, Excellence, Monsieur le Président, les politiques publiques africaines qui sont menées actuellement à l'endroit de cette jeunesse qui, au-delà d'être la tranche de la population la plus importante, incarnent l'avenir? Ces politiques sont-elles adaptées pour répondre aux préconisations justement que vous venez de faire? Merci, Excellence.
Again, the facts, I think, are very clear. The public policies that are there, however good you may think they are, if they are still producing people to leave countries and go in search of a better living, then you have got to go back and revisit them and fine-tune them and see what is it that is not working. I mean, it's very clear. It's a question of whether we are seeing improvement in these tragedies, and therefore if we are not seeing an improvement, then there's something we need to work on. I mean, it's clear. There's no other formula you have to apply. It's just seeing things for what they are. Yes, you can say my country has the best policies and so on and so forth. Fine. If your country is producing these young people who are just running away from the country, it means the good policies are just on paper. They are not having effect on the ground. That is an indicator that nothing is working. So you have got to make it work, or you have either good policies that are not being applied, therefore you've got to implement them, or they are bad policies outright. So you need to change them. So one way or the other. So really there is nothing else I can say about that. It's what you have, it's what it gives you. If what you have you may be proud of doesn't give you what you want, then you need to change something. You need to do something different or do it differently. But something has to change.
Thank you, Mr. President. We're going to shift the focus from issues about the youths of this continent, which we all admit very pertinent issues, to talk issues about broadcasting. Honorable Delegate of Algeria. Honorable Delegate of Algeria, you have the floor.
Mon nom est Toufek Khaladi, je suis le directeur général de la télévision algérienne.
Can you introduce yourself with your name so that we hear?
I just do it. I repeat. Mon nom est Toufek Khaladi, je suis le directeur général de la télévision algérienne. Nous nous sommes laissés dire tout à l'heure par le président de notre union que vous aimiez le football. Vous n'êtes bon pas sans savoir que l'ensemble des broadcasters africains sont extrêmement préoccupés par les prix de plus en plus exorbitants que nous devons payer pour offrir ce spectacle à nos populations. L'Union africaine de radiodiffusion, Monsieur le Président, n'est pas restée les bras croisés, puisque depuis quelques années, elle a mis en place un mémorandum qui était un consensus général sur ce que nous voulions comme modèle de défense du droit de nos populations à accéder aux événements d'importance majeure. Ce mémorandum a été accepté dans les instances de l'Union africaine, dans une première étape dans les comités techniques spécialisés, puis a été voté par les chefs d'État de gouvernement de l'Union africaine que vous présidez Aujourd'hui, Monsieur le Président, nous aimerions savoir quelles sont les décisions que vous pourrez impulser lors de votre mandature pour que cette décision prenne vie sur le terrain, tout en sachant que nous avons également déposé un projet de résolution au niveau du Parlement panafricain. Je vous remercie.
Yeah, I'm for sure a football fan, and particularly I'm a Arsenal fan. But I have other teams I like as well, other than Arsenal. But if it was doing as well as it should, or I think it should be doing, maybe I would be staying with that alone. But I'm beginning to look for
The options.
the options. But I was also told, indeed, that there is a difficulty in, for example, our broadcasters obtaining these rights to broadcast football or maybe other sports because of how that industry is structured. It's a problem. It's a problem we need to confront. But it's not just in football. There are many other areas where African countries have to depend on others, on external factors, as if they are really beyond our control, and we have to be driven, even to an extent, our interests are managed and driven by others other than ourselves. So working around that principle, we need to, like we said earlier, that we want an African Union that can deliver some of the things for itself. We need to look at ways of dealing with that. I mean, it is an embarrassment because I was also told, for example, our rights, our citizens' rights to watch Africans playing football in Africa is also managed by people from outside.
From France.
This is scandalous, of course. There is nothing to be proud of in that. So how can we keep like this, and for how long? But you may find some Africans are happy about it, and that's the biggest problem. Some Africans don't find anything wrong with that because those rights are given by people who have made them think like they think, even about ourselves. So but we can deal with that as we have dealt with other problems. Why can't Africans working together, by their countries? You know, sometimes it comes down to money. So we are told it is very expensive, we have to pay to do this, and even when it is some, yes. But in the end, we pay. So if in the end we pay, but very expensively, it actually means money is not our problem. So, so why don't we use this money to do what is right, that will actually even reduce the cost? You see what I mean?
Yes,
yes, you'll find countries will be actually paying in that bizarre manner and still access the rights or have the rights to broadcast, but they will pay. So money isn't so much Africa's problem as such, if we just even confine ourselves to this particular aspect. So we can come together Each country, for example, if we contribute, I don't know, some people have even, in fact, I remember several years ago, there is an African, a good African who used to be the head of ITU, International Telecommunication Union, from Mali, a man called Hamadoun Touré.
Hamadoun Touré, yeah.
Yes, I had the opportunity, I used to serve on, I still do, the Broadband Commission under the UN. I'm co-chair that with somebody else from Mexico, in private sector. In fact, like probably 10 years ago, he brought up this idea and came to me and we tried to work on it, and then we said we should mobilize people and to create something, whether you call it the Al Jazeera of Africa or CNN of Africa or whatever borrowed name you may wish. But we want something that can work for Africa in that way, and many others we can. So in the end, the idea just sort of lost steam, but it is still going on. And this former Secretary General of ITU had wanted to help, but wanted to bring in the private sector to be the ones to do it. Bringing so many contributing portions to realize that amount didn't work, then getting a few individuals who have the money, who can pay a lot of money to do that, didn't work also, but it is an idea we can go back to. Yes, I think it is an idea we can go back to and try and really emphasize the importance of this, and then bring private sector together with the public sector we can do something. Even if it is so many millions of dollars, why don't we together, and I think these African countries are really rich, but poor in a very different sense, but I think we are rich, we can afford the money to get those rights where they belong. And not only cover football, but even politics. Yes.
Mr. President, listening to you say things which I agree with you are totally correct. Do you have the sentiment or feel that Africa is dispersed in its effort, or I would say even worse, is getting somehow discouraged about its own future?
Yeah, there is this absence, is this vacuum we have created about ourselves that we need to fill. We don't have to wait until somebody else fills it. I think the vacuum has been waiting for too long, far too long. We need to occupy it. We need to occupy our space. If we don't occupy our space, somebody else will always occupy it. And these are the side effects we are talking about. People from elsewhere, from outside of our continent, have occupied our space for far too long. We need to occupy our space. And we can, and we need to. I mean, whoever you talk to, whether, you know, we have even these useless divides. You know, some say they are proud of speaking this. You told us here you speak, there were 3 languages or something you are talking about. I know there are more than that. But you find we are even at each other just for which language we speak. That is foreign to us, all of us. That becomes another divide, and the Africans keep running around happy to fight the other one because he speaks a different language. That is one way of wasting our time. So I don't know who in Africa doesn't know the problems we have. Who in Africa? The young, the old, even those you call the ordinary people. forget about the elites. The elites will tell you more than you want to hear from them about our problems. But they will not tell you what they are doing about it. So we need to do something. That's the most important thing. We can't just keep lamenting, begging, crying and about our problems that we understand. And everyone knows a whole long list of things we are capable of doing for ourselves, except doing them.
Mr. President, following from your discourse, the many vacuums that we have on this continent, which are being filled because they've been waiting for too long, particularly in the broadcast sector, is a problem of content. Let's move our discussion forward by listening to broadcasters who have spent a lot of time during this past 3 days talking about content, interact with you, share with you their concerns and the ideas about where we move in trying to fill those vacuums, as you rightly indicated.
Sure.
Honorable Delegate of Nigeria.
Your Excellency, my name is Mansour Liman. I'm the Director General of Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria. On a lighter note, sir, we do not want to lose a supporter. I, as an Arsenal supporter myself. On a serious note, sir, we spent the last couple of days before today discussing about the challenges of making local content. That is Africans telling the African story themselves. I'm glad you started talking about the idea of creating a channel. Now, in order for Africans to tell the African story, we need a medium. We cannot allow others owning that medium for us to produce that content to go on their own medium. We need our own. And our medium, not just to speak to Africans, but to speak to the whole world, sir. Now, as the chair of African Union and the president of the Republic of Rwanda, sir, how do you think we Africans can tell this story to the rest of the world through our own medium? What do you think we need to do in order to achieve this important goal? Thank you, sir.
I think it is understood by everybody what we need to do. Some better than me. But like in many other cases, I think, I don't know, I keep going back to this. There is something we need to do. There's something we need to break away from. I don't know whether it is an issue of mentality or whatever it is. This question you've raised, I have heard about it hundreds of times over so many years. Everybody's raising that question. Everybody's talking about that. But why should we fail to move a step forward and answer that question? Yet every year, it just, as it comes up, it is referring us to the failure. But simple, let me put it in simple language. To speak for yourself, you need your own mouth. You can't just, be there and then tell somebody else, you give them a signal that they should speak for you. I mean, it doesn't make sense. And we have you, we have many others in this room, we have many outside, who know that you are talking about very well. We need our own content. We need our own way of transmitting that, not only to the people of Africa, but to the outsiders. What we have had for far too long again is the outsiders owning our mouths that should be telling our stories, and they end up telling our story the way they want, not the way it is. It's as simple as that. So, you have these people who work in this industry here in the room and wherever else, and we can have more, we can train more. They need to, develop, create the content that actually tells the good story, or the right story for that matter, about our continent. But how do they transmit it to other Africans? We can't take it for granted. Even on African matters, we need to, the general public needs to be informed, it needs to understand, it needs to know what is happening in their own countries, in our own continent. Who tells them this? You can't have people outside of the continent telling the general public of our continent, of Africa, the story about them. Well, what they do, though, to say they have a good argument there that they can do it well, they co-opt a few of us who also are happy to tell the African story the way those outsiders see it. They do that. Let's also be frank with ourselves. Yes, they co-opt good African people to tell the story of Africa the way those outsiders see it. And they are happy to carry out that service. So we need to change that. And the way to change it is very clear. I mean, from the question itself, you get the answer.
Mr. President, you used a very good imagery to talk about you using your own mouth to speak.
Yes.
And we are reminded a similar image. You put your mouth where your money is. Mm-hmm. We are here public broadcasters, public service broadcasters in Africa. The reality is dwindling resources. Similarly, are we wanting to speak with our own mouth, putting our money where it should be so that we could speak?
Sure.
This is, I'm drawing from the substance of what we've been discussing, and to prolong that discussion so that we could move to another participant who wants to ask another question.
Yeah, but before that, as
yes,
you do that,
President.
for what you have just said that is important.
Yep.
So we need countries, individual, Rwanda, any other, to actually put money with our broadcasters. Then what is even going to work better is if we now bring all this together in the interest of our continent. We can find a way of reaching out to each other once we have put our money in our different countries. Different countries are putting their money with their broadcasters. Then we can forge something now that works for the continent. We can move like that, and it is possible. Yes. But we have to have the political will, we have to have the, we have to change our thinking.
Honorable Delegate of Tanzania.
Asante. Mheshimiwa Rais, naitwa Ayubu Rioba Chacha, ni mkurugenzi mkuu wa shirika la utangazaji Tanzania TBC. At least I've used Kiswahili, now I go to English.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. President, next week, leaders of the African Union will be meeting, and among issues on the table will be how to implement the Continental Free Trade Area agreement. My understanding is that this is an area where there have been fears in the past, and these fears are actually reflected in practices such as trade barriers, protectionism. Please share with us, in which ways do you see benefits of free trade area outweighing fears? Secondly, what is your assessment of the level of commitment among leaders on the continent to implement this? Thank you.
Well, to begin with, I would say that the fears are false, or if you will, the lost opportunity of not having a free trade area is much bigger than the fears. So if you want to apply a sort of business mindset to every kind of logic, it may work well. So it's the cost, it's the benefit. If you look at, for all the arguments, what we lose by not trading with each other among ourselves, by not allowing freedom of movement of people and of goods and services across Africa, the cost is huge, absolutely. I mean, you lose a lot. Now, what are the fears? I haven't even understood very well what the fears are. The fears are, you know, when we, in Rwanda, we removed the visas, travel visas for people, especially the Africans. Every African comes here and, of course, we were told we are going to want to create a problem for ourselves. We are going to have a lot of, I think, criminals, or all kinds of people coming here and destroying what we are building. The good news is that has not happened for the years we have removed the visa requirements. So I think this was imaginary fear. Maybe in some other cases, actually the fear is real. Maybe. Let me take it even from that worst case scenario. But is there no way of dealing with this fear that may really be preventing you from having something much bigger than you are getting by applying whatever you apply on the basis of this fear? So people can make a simple calculation. And working on that basis, you can find ways around it. So continental free trade area is, if it happens and is applied, and it would be the best thing that has happened to Africa. And so we should go ahead with it, because there are no arguments against it. There's no debate about it. If you just discuss it and debate that. So what I'm seeing, therefore, on the second part of the question is Africans really want it, and they have seen that the fears they have about allowing this to happen, the fears they have are outweighed by the benefits we would have by allowing a continental free trade area to happen. The benefits are enormous, they are huge. And we are forging ahead. I think that's what we will be emphasizing during this extraordinary summit that is going to happen here in Kigali on the 21st of March. So I think even as broadcasters and others, this is what I was saying, we need to be out there explaining, even in simple terms so that our citizens really understand it, our people. But I think our citizens are not the ones anyway blocking that to happen. I think it is our leaders. But so leaders, I don't mean heads of state and government. Leaders, I mean at every level, whether it is business or public, at other levels. If they don't understand the sense of urgency to have this free trade area agreement implemented, then we lose. But by explaining every day, every time, and making the wider population of our continent understand that, then if we did that, it helps even the leaders to treat it as urgent, and we move on.
Mr. President, as we listen to this discourse, we feel a sense of quiet urgency in what you say. Leapfrogging is maybe the best way Africa has to do. We will not come back to do things the way they've been done in the past. Our discussions at this General Assembly, this forum that preceded this, was all about the digital switchover, which we believe is also one way of leapfrogging and trying to answer the urgency that you're talking about in handling many of Africa's issues. Let me invite the Honorable Delegate of Côte d'Ivoire to address that issue for us. Thank you, sir.
Amadou Bakayoko, directeur général de la télévision ivoirienne. Monsieur le Président, Votre Excellence, je voudrais d'abord vous remercier pour le discours très pragmatique. Dans les unions, il y a souvent beaucoup d'intentions et de discours théoriques, donc ça nous fait du bien, ça va nous ancrer un peu plus dans les choses concrètes. Merci, Monsieur le Président. Ma question est, je constate que le Rwanda fait partie de la dizaine de pays qui ont réussi la migration vers la TNT. Il y a encore une quarantaine de pays qui n'ont pas réussi. Qu'est-ce qui peut être fait collectivement pour que justement ces 40 pays puissent rejoindre le premier groupe et terminer cette migration technologique essentielle? Merci.
Well, again, there might be some fear about this switchover that is imaginary. I don't know whether it's just because people fear new things or to try them out, but they're already trying other things that are digital in different parts of our continent that they also associate with some benefits. So why wouldn't you do it even in the area of broadcasting? We have, for example, something else. There's something that has been created called Smart Africa that has a number of countries of our continent, participating and doing different good things and a lot of innovations in their own countries. Now, if they are looking at what is happening and how the economies are being transformed, why would you leave this switchover from digital to analog systems in broadcasting? Because it brings along similar benefits. So I really cannot fully understand why the slowness or worries that people may have, that they don't want to move along or they move slowly, and I don't know, but we can keep talking about it and raising our voices and stressing the need to do that, especially associating the need to do that with the benefits that are going to be realized. Again, as we talked about earlier, some of the things in our own country, which we have done. I hope they can reassure brothers and sisters from across the continent that if they can happen in Rwanda and there is no harm or there is just benefit, that is going to happen, that can happen anywhere else, or even happen much better than it has happened here. When we talked about the removing visa restrictions, when we talked about different things we have tried to do from a very complicated history and background here in our country. We tried to do that so that we improve our own situation. We didn't do it just to impress anybody, but that can also constitute a lesson from somebody looking from the outside, who sees that, well, if this one did this and resolved the problem they had, and they are making good progress, maybe if I applied the same thing in our situation, it may, the same might happen. So the switchover is going to, we are going to have to encourage others who haven't done it, much as the deadlines have been set and so on. That's not enough. I think people can't just be driven by deadlines. They can only be driven by the understanding of what they have to benefit by doing something. So the deadline helps in a sense of stressing the urgency of the matter, but we ourselves can help each other in understanding that this switchover is necessary, is beneficial, it's doable, and you can keep arguing for it until you convince the others to try and do it as well.
Mr. President, we are gradually drawing to the end of this very engaging conversation. Without abusing of your availability, would you want to give an opportunity for one last question?
Sure. 1, 2, 3, no problem.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The floor is given to the Director General of the European Broadcasting Corporation.
Thank you. Thank you, Emmanuel, for promoting me Director General. I'm not yet, but I take as a wish. Thank you. I have two questions. One is very specific about the topic that you were just discussing now, the digital migration. Your very wise idea to create Smart Africa and to invite Amadou Touré to come here to build it is a very interesting opportunity. But why Smart Africa is not taking the lead in this process? Because your idea was to improve all the benefit of the telecommunication and of the internet in the African dimension, bringing a certain number of expertise here, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that the convergence is the key element. And in Smart Africa project, until now, the broadcasting has been neglected as an element. And I think that this could be eventually an element that could be useful to be integrated in the strategy. Mm-hmm. The second question is about your relation with the European Union.
With?
The European Union. This is more in your role of African Union in this case. The partnership between the European Union and the African Union is very important. But every time that I talk with my friends at the European Commission in Brussels and I ask them why you don't do more in the field of the media, why you don't do more in the field of culture, et cetera, and they tell us, but wherever we raise these issues without a counterpart, they say, no, this is not a priority. The priority are others. So we invest money in other fields. And the ambassador of the European Union came to us yesterday night and he said that they are making now a move even in the culture, even if you don't ask. But I think that if you ask, if you say that this is relevant for you, as you have told us, this would be more important, could bring more benefits to both sides. Thank you very much.
Sure. Well, first, for the Smart Africa initiative, it's young. It's not very old. So I'm glad that it would take actually that up, if we, and we need to work together, it would take up this migration problem from digital, from analog to digital. We will do that. So we have delayed, but we have not forgotten to do it. I'm sure we can do that. And I'm happy to push for that, since I'm again the chair of this. I will do it, no question. Second, even for the European Union and partnership with Africa and what we can do together, well, I'm sure there might be people who think or who thought that putting money in this area is not important. We can now, I have only a few months to do that. So I promise I'll use my 3 months before the 3 months ahead, but I have up to the end of the year. But I tell you, in the next 3 months, we'll do something about it. At least I raise my voice. That one, nobody manages it better than I manage my voice, and so I dictate what I say. So I'm going to raise that voice very loud and clear about what we can do in the partnership between Europe and Africa, and that is very important. Rest assured that I will transmit the message very well and ask that we do something about it.
Mr. President, with the few more opportunities we have, we want to extend this essentially to our sister broadcast unions who are here with us in the spirit of fraternity and sharing, cross-pollination from the ideas they have. There are quite a number of them here. We're going to give the floor to the Asia Pacific Broadcast Union.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Javad Mutagi. I'm the Secretary General of the Asia Pacific Broadcasting Union. I'm happy to say somebody who loves sports and also has a very clear understanding in going digital and giving voice to Africa is now leading not only Rwanda but also Africa. I understand that in the House, in particular, Your Excellency, you have clear information and understanding of what has been said in at least 4 issues. One is the rights for sports rights. This is not a challenge for Africa. This is also a challenge for Asia and Europe. And we all are suffering from increasing rights every year, and possibly in the Olympics as well as the World Cup. There are also ways to respond to that, and solutions that at a union level means African Union can look into that. Similarly, when discussion was about giving voice to Africa and creating African Channel, this is absolutely essential, and I'm happy that you have confirmed that. And this has been in discussions for years, but nothing moved forward in creating a channel, creating an international challenge for Africa. Similarly, going digital, this was a third issue that was consent in the House, and also Smart Africa. Possibly, the way forward, since you are leading African Union, is to create or explore the possibility of establishing a kind of media advisory services for African Union, or creating a task group for media task group for African Union to put these ideas into practice. And if the practice is establishing an African channel, give us some thought and come up with recommendation and plan. And also for sports, a lot of solutions there, such as listed events, such as African pool and national pool and all that. Perhaps it's the time for African Union to establish that sort of media advisory group or task group with the help of AUB and others, to take these ideas forward. Thank you.
I agree. No problem at all. I agree with you.
Mr. President, we will give the floor to the Honorable Delegate of Morocco.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je m'appelle Zakaria Hchlef, je suis directeur juridique de la Société nationale de radiodiffusion et de télévision au Royaume du Maroc. Et ma question peut paraître simpliste, mais c'est une exagération pour simplifier justement, puisqu'elle est en même temps suggestive. Et en pensant à l'Union africaine, c'est un corps qui est composé de plusieurs organes, de plusieurs composantes. Et il est enseigné que l'important dans les corps, ce ne sont jamais les molécules, mais ce sont les relations entre les différentes molécules. Quand on boit de l'eau, on ne voit pas les composantes de l'eau, mais on voit la relation qu'il y a entre les composantes. Et les questions qui sont soulevées à travers ce forum et à travers cette rencontre, c'est des questions qui interpellent, à notre avis, des aspects autres, c'est-à-dire qui sortent du carré imaginaire de l'Union africaine de radiodiffusion. On a interpellé la question migratoire, on a interpellé la question de la TNT et de la migration vers le numérique, et peut-être pourquoi pas le digital. Et ce serait peut-être l'occasion d'interpeller les relations entre les différentes composantes de l'Union, dans le sens où la problématique, par exemple, de la TNT trouvera ses voies de facilitation dans la question des énergies, que la question des énergies apportera des solutions pour la question migratoire avec l'inversement des flux migratoires. Et donc, ma question est de savoir s'il y a une réflexion pour développer les constructions de capacités des membres de l'Union afin de renforcer les ponts, renforcer les coopérations, non seulement entre les membres de la même Union, par exemple africaine de radiodiffusion, mais entre cette Union et d'autres composantes justement de la grande Union africaine. Voilà, merci beaucoup.
Yes. When I was saying something about the reforms, it's about that. The fact that African leaders found it necessary to carry out reforms was a recognition that something needs to be done, something different, or something needs to be done differently. So it's in recognition of exactly what you have said. It means something is not working well for us, the way we want, the way it should. Excuse me. Therefore, the fact that there is a need for reform and the people recognized it, they are speaking to that fact which you have raised. And in the reform process, we need to identify then a number of things. What is it that is actually not working? And then fix it. So I think I go back to the idea which somebody from Asia raised, that we needed to have the advisory mechanism he talked about is to help us identify what and how. So we can apply it in many other cases that require change that we are not realizing up to this point. So I think you have a point, and that's exactly what needs to be fixed. So we need to realize what is it that is lacking in place, or what is it that is in place but is not giving us the expected results, and why, and then keep fixing that. It's a long process. It's a complex one, but we need to do something about it. Absolutely.
Mr. President, with those ideas, we will gradually be coming to the close of our conversation today. But if you permit, ladies and gentlemen, two very important points that we take home today. The President's invitation to fill the many African vacuums that are waiting. And for us broadcasters, we know what our own vacuums are. And secondly, the President's call for action now and not too much talking. Mr. President, we want to thank you on behalf of all the members of the Union for having engaged us in this discussion about broadcasting and the development of our continent. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wangebe. Thank you, Mr. President, for the key insights that you provided, and thank you to all the contributions that help us understand what's at stake for the media development on the continent, but also on other key development issues that we will have to face as Africans. Allow me now to welcome the CEO of the African Union of Broadcasting, Mr. Gregoire Njaka, for officially thanking the President on our all behalf.
Your Excellency, we came from the four corners of this blessed continent and abroad, and we have had a golden opportunity to kindly listen to you, and we have just done so. Ladies and gentlemen, please, I would like to invite you to stand up and let us give one of the biggest standing ovations to our leader, President of Rwanda and President of African Union. Thank you very much. Your Excellency, the President of Republic of Rwanda and President of African Union, your people are saying thank you. From the bottom of our hearts, we want to thank you for having given us the opportunity to meet here in this beautiful city of Kigali for the 11th General Assembly of our Union. We thank our colleagues of Rwanda Broadcasting Agency and the entire government of Rwanda for all the good they have done for us during our stay in Kigali. As a father and as a leader, you best know. You know more than everyone in this hall that in our continent, in Africa, in our culture, in African culture, when someone says thank you, you must carefully listen to him. He has something to ask, and we have something to ask. Mr. President, the African Union of Broadcasting members are strongly appealing that through your good offices, you kindly convince the Confederation of African Football, CAF, owner of the broadcast right for Africa, the owner of broadcast right for African Cup of Nations, AFCON, to make these rights affordable for us. The current situation is not sustainable for the African media. As an illustration, for the last AFCON 2017, only 13 countries broadcast the competition. 40, including our colleagues of RBA here in Rwanda, did not broadcast the competition. For an African competition, this is regrettable. CAF is behaving as if it's not an African confederation. Your Excellency, permit us to humbly request that you should be our spoken person at the level of the head of state on this particular issue. As the largest professional organization in the continent, the AUB, with 51 public media organizations, 12 associate members, and 6 participant members, we would like to be granted the observer status at the African Union. Your Excellency, in our school of journalism, it is accepted that those who went to heaven and met the Almighty God had a discussion with him in order to acquaint themselves with his way of doing things, brought back this good news. The Almighty God listens more to the prayers of communicators and journalists. Let be on record that from Kigali, in this beautiful Kigali Convention Center, we prayed God to give you more wisdom to continue to lead this country. As President of African Union, may he inspire you to share your experience for the well-being of the African population. Long live African Union of Broadcasting. Long live African Union. Long live the President of the Republic of Rwanda, the first to attend our meetings and to grant an interview to us. And long live President Paul Kagame. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Njaka, for this vote of thanks that I'm sure reflects our thanking hearts for your presence, Your Excellency. Now, this closes our session. We are going to head to the foyer area, if you allow, for a group photo. I would like to remind you that we'll have 2 separate photos. I would like to invite first the representative and the ministers, visiting ministers that are in attendance, as well as the executive committee of AUB as the first group, and all delegates will be invited to take part in the second picture. Thank you very much.
abari bakomeje gukurikira televiziyo y'u Rwanda, umuhango wakomeje kubera hano muri Kigali Convention Center muri iyi nama mpuzamahanga y'ibitangazamakuru by'amajwi n'amashusho nyafurika. Abari bateraniye hano bagiriwe umugisha wo kubana na Perezida w'u Rwanda, nyakubahwa Perezida Paul Kagame, muri iyi nama, aho bimwe mu byo yagarutseho cyangwa se mu kiganiro kirambuye yagiranye nabo habanje kwibanda cyane kubireba Afrika, umuyobozi kuri ubu ngubu uyoboye African Union, nk'umuyobozi uyoboye Afrika yunze ubumwe. Bamaje bimwe mu bibazo bigiye binyuranye biri mu gabana Afrika, ibibazo byugaje Afrika harimo nk'abimukira. Kuri ubu ngubu hari uburyo yagiye bisubizaho, yagiye avuga ko ibihugu bigomba kubanza kureba ese ba bantu bimuka cyangwa se bahunga ibihugu byabo bahunga iki, ese n'iki cyakorwa kugira ngo bo guhunga ibyo bihugu bumve ko ibihugu byabo ari byo byo kubamo, ese na nyuma yo kumenya ko hari abagiye se kubagarura mu bihugu byabo bagaruka baza basanga ibyo bahunze koko bigihari. Ndetse habaye n'icyiciro cy'akabiri cyo kubaza ibibazo bitandukanye ku bijyanye n'iyi nama. Inama yahuzaga ibitangazamakuru by'amajwi ndetse n'amashusho muri Afurika, ariko harebwa cyane cyane kuva muri analog bajya muri digital. Kuri ubu ngubu ibihugu bigera ku 10 muri Afurika nibyo bimaze gutera iyo ntambwe yo kuva muri analog bijya muri digital. Ibihugu birenga 40 kuri ubu ngubu ntibiragerageza gutera iyo ntambwe, naho Perezida wa Repubulika yagarutse ababwira ko niba hari byinshi byakozwe ku mugabane wa Afurika, kubera iki ibyo bitakorwa, aho yakomoje ku kuba hari abantu batinya ibintu kubera ko ari ubwoba, bagira ubwoba bw'ikintu kandi bamara kukigeramo bagasanga cyaragombaga gukorwa. Urugero Tanzania nkaho ni nko ku Rwanda, aho u Rwanda rumaze kugerageza ibintu bitandukanye harimo nko guha visa abanyafurika. Hanga yagarutse kuba abantu benshi baragiraga inama mu Rwanda mbere urukiko rutangira igahunda yo guha abanyafurika visa ko hari ibibazo byinshi abantu bazakurura u Rwanda, hari umutekano muke, hari n'ibindi bibazo, ariko kuva iyi gahunda yatangira ku banyarwanda no ku Rwanda nta kibazo na kimwe cyari cyabigaragaraho. Aheraho rakomoza avuga ko ntacyo bagomba gutinya mu bigomba gukemura ibibazo by'abanyafurika, harimo no kuva muri analogue bajya muri digital. N'u Rwanda kuba rwarabikoze habayemo kwigomwa byinshi, habayemo gukoresha imbaraga nyinshi, cyane cyane nk'igihugu cyari kivuye mu bibazo bitandukanye, ariko byarakunze. Ese ibindi bihugu byo muri Afurika niki cyabinaniza? Ikindi cyagarutsweho cyane ni ukuba abanyafurika bavuga inkuru, batanga ibiganiro bireba umugabane wa Afurika. Kiracyari ikibazo gikomeye cyane, aho n'abanyafurika bataratinyuka cyangwa se batarafata iya mbere kugira ngo bavuge ibera muri Afurika, babibwira abanyafurika ubwabo ndetse babwira n'abatari abanyafurika. Aho yatanze urugero rworoshye, aravuga ati umunwa w'umuntu uba ugomba kuba ari uvugira. Ese kuki abanyafurika bo batahera aho ngaho kugira ngo bivugire? Atanga ingero nyinshi, atanga inyungu nyinshi zava muri ibi ngibi. Abagira inama abanyafurika gutangira gutekereza ibiganiro by'abanyafurika, bakabibwira abanyafurika ariko bakanabibwira n'abandi bari hanze y'Afurika, y'abanyafurika bari hanze y'Afurika ndetse n'abanyamahanga. Asoreje gukomeza kusaba bano bagize bino bitangazamakuru, abayobozi b'ibitangazamakuru by'amajwi n'amashusho gukora bari umugani wa Afurika, ndetse anizeza ko azabakorera ubuvugizi leta z'ibihugu baherereyemo zigakomeza kubafasha mu buryo bw'amafaranga ndetse n'uburyo bw'ubujyanama. Ni inama rero izasuzwa ku munsi w'ejo, aho abari bayirimo abayiteraniyemo muri iyi minsi igera kuri 4 bagiriwe umugisha wo kuba babanye na perezida w'u Rwanda, by'umwihariko abana perezida w'umuryango wa Afurika yunze ubumwe. Ni inama nyinshi yabagiriye, ni ibiganiro byinshi, ibibazo byinshi bagiye bamubaza, nabo banasoje bamushimira, bavuga ko ari iby'agaciro gakomeye cyane kuba yagize uyu mwanya wo kubana nabo, ndetse bamwizeza no kuzakomeza gukorera abanyafurika nk'abanyafurika nabo bashyiramo imbaraga nyinshi mu gutanga amakuru abereye Afurika, mu gutanga amakuru avuga ibibazo bya Afurika. Televiziyo y'u Rwanda rero yakomeje kubera hano, nge na Basil Uwimana tukomeje kubifuriza ibihe byiza hamwe n'ikipe yose yakomeje kubagezaho iyi nama.